What is up, guys? It's the Stick Figure Historian again, and this is episode 25 of the American series. So, jumping back into our story of Texas here, we talked last week about the Gutierrez-McGee expedition and its nasty end at the Battle of Medina. But that crushing defeat did not end the Mexican War for Independence. Texas was only a very small part of New Spain. The rest continued to fight. The struggle was a long and hard one, but eventually, in 1821, victory was attained, and the Empire of Mexico was born. But the emperor, Augustin de Iturbide, didn't hold his throne for even a full year. He was overthrown with the aid of that officer I spoke of in our last episode, the ruthless Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, and a republic was declared instead. The Constitution of 1824 eventually became the rule of law for Mexico, just as our Constitution is for the Republic of America. That's how things stood with Mexico. But what of the territory of Texas and the Alamo? The Americans certainly had not forgotten the rich land of opportunity beyond the western shores of the Sabine River. The Adams-Onis Treaty of 1819 had tried to settle the outlandish dispute over that border, clearly defining what was New Spain and what was not. But even though Spain had thrown the province of Florida into the treaty deal, many Americans still were not content. Congress offered several times to buy Texas from Spain, but to no avail. It was just before Mexico became independent that the first glimmer of promise came. For Spain came to see that it needed the Americans. You see, Texas was rather vulnerable and undefended. There were not very many people living there, and those that did were constantly suffering from the attacks of Indian raiders, primarily of the fierce Comanche and Apache tribes. But Spain didn't have enough soldiers or money to protect the Tejanos. It was also clear to King Ferdinand VII that the Americans were going to come across the Texas border, one way or another. He wasn't a fool. And so, he sought to change the problem into a solution. He invited the Americans to come and settle Texas, under the conditions they would protect the land there and become loyal subjects of the Spanish government. Moses Austin, a bankrupt lead miner and a founder of the failed St. Louis Bank, was the first to take up Spain's offer. Moses threw his other disastrous enterprises to the wind and came to Texas to explore the land there. By the end of 1821, he was on his way back home to Missouri, contract in hand. Empresario, he was called. That was the title given to the leaders of the Texan settlers. It's similar to our English word of entrepreneur, meaning businessman. For this really was a business venture. There was a lot of money to be made in cotton and sugar from the rich soils along the river basins of the Brazos and Colorado. Moses' head was filled with dreams of success, of a business venture that would finally turn out in his favor. Empresario. Yeah, that had a nice ring to it. And then he got sick with pneumonia. Perhaps it was the weeks of travel and exploration that had done it. Sleeping out in the open, rain or shine. Whatever the case, Moses never recovered. Among his last words was a plea to his son, Stephen, to carry out the work he had begun. This was not exactly the plan for his life that young Stephen had in mind. He had been studying to be a lawyer, to dig his family out of the debt his father had plunged them into. But his mother, Mary, persuaded him to give up his own dreams and take up the fallen torch. It was no easy road that Stephen had to travel to fulfill his father's dream. As I told you in the beginning, 1821 was the year that Mexico won her independence. This was also, unfortunately, the same year that Moses had got his contract, just a few months before the new empire was created. And with the overthrowing of Spain came the overthrowing of all her contracts. Stephen was going to have to start all over again. He went to Emperor Iturbide and got a new paper drawn up. But you'll also perhaps remember what I told you about Iturbide. Within a year, he too was overthrown, along with all his contracts. Now, Stephen had to wait until the chaos of the transition to a republic blew over. The poet William Edward Hickson once wrote, "'Tis a lesson you should heed. Try, try, try again. If at first you don't succeed, try, try, try again." The lines were penned long after Stephen was dead, but this was nonetheless certainly a maxim that this would-be Empresario believed in. He persisted, and in 1825 he finally got a lasting contract. Oh yeah, heh, that. I'm getting to it. There's a lot of lead up to the events at the Alamo, and I want to keep things in perspective. Don't worry, we'll get there.